Hi, my name is Rachel, and I have NF1.
Hi, I'm Mary. I'm from Girl Scout Troop 1427 from Northern New Jersey. For my Girl Scout Gold Award Take Action project, I have decided to make an educational video on neurofibromatosis. The information out there is scientific and not personal. The video included perspectives of teachers, parents, and students with NF. Thanks for watching.
They may have some special educational needs and obviously some social needs as well. So we would like them to get special attention, and followed by educational experts and maybe some neurology people as well. And then if some challenges are discovered, that they get all the services they need, which could be anything from a resource room, learning specialists, extra time, aids in case they have a visual problem. Yeah, they're I would call them special needs kids for the most part. It should be followed closely.
One thing a school should definitely know about a child who has NF is that there's a reason. There's a reason why their handwriting is a little messier. There's a reason why it's harder for them to sit down and pay attention for that long, or they're asking you to repeat yourself so many times. And we just ask that you take the time to learn your student and learn what it is that maybe they are really great at and some of the things they struggle in, so that you know how to tailor your lessons and your teaching to their learning.
So we start thinking about learning in the first year of life, before the child even goes to school. And if they need early intervention services with physical or occupational therapy or speech therapy,
Correct.
they will take advantage of that. They may need what we call enrichment services with educators, speech therapy. So we want to have these kids ready for school as possible. In New York, and I don't know about New Jersey, we have a lot of services, preschool services that our children can take advantage of. And then when they enter kindergarten, hopefully they'll be better prepared. In kindergarten and obviously elementary school, we would like them followed as a potential special needs. For kids with NF, about 3/4 of them are at risk for learning problems, a little lower percent for behavioral problems like attention issues, distractibility. So often we extend special services to them. They should all be part of public school system. Most public schools can handle them, frankly, better than some private schools. So they don't need to be singled out, right? And you're an example of that, right? You can get all your needs met in your public school system.
The first thing a school should do when they learn about having one of their students with NF is holding an IEP meeting with the parent, and if the student is old enough and able to advocate for themselves, their student as well, because that will only allow you a little bit of an inside view of some of the things that this family is going through and this student is going through, and it allows you to tailor your lesson plans a little more, and opens the way for a different kind of learning. Not everybody is auditory learning or learns from reading things. Some people are very kinesthetic, so it'll help you understand how to help your students succeed.
I think NF is something that it takes a lot of research to really understand, because every child is different. And I think Reed has extreme gifts, and many children with NF have wonderful gifts, and they also have some challenges. And it kind of goes with both of those. But I think, like with Reed, with his ADHD and some of his fine motor skills, he's done very well with the right teachers and the right help. He's done fabulously well in school. As a matter of fact, he just made Dean's List last time for the first time in high school. So a lot of the accommodations and the stuff he's doing with the teachers is really working well.
NF affects every child differently. You could have 10 children in your classroom, all who have NF, but every child's needs are going to be different. So your lesson plans and the modifications should be tailored to that child.
I guess maybe a better understanding how it affects them as far as learning disabilities, and I guess just sort of understanding what kids go through in terms of their learning disabilities and the accommodations that they need and what they can provide and so forth. And also maybe understand maybe the emotional side of it. So I think having people more aware of what it's about can only help them understand maybe emotionally what they're going through, as well as, you know, the learning disabilities that they do have. Usually after school, I would kind of let him just sort of decompress and relax and kind of chill out for a while, because I think in school, focusing for, 7 hours or whatever it is, it can kind of be a lot. So after school, I typically would just sort of let him relax and hang out, have something to eat, and then kind of get into the schoolwork, try to get it all done before dinner time, because then after dinner time, he's tired and irritable.
I've always been a big believer in homework. I love homework. You know that. Because I think homework reinforces what you've learned in school. I think it's extra practice. So when you were much younger, I used to check homework every day. I used to make you rewrite homework sometimes when it wasn't neat. Despite your frustration with me, make you redo a lot of things. As you got bigger, doing those things helped you learn. So when you started high school, it became routine for you to just call me and say, "Hey, Mom, I've got to study English. I've got to study math." But those practices early on helped you become self-sufficient. So when I do get home from work now, I don't need to do anything for you. You've already told me everything is done.
Oh, we have had routines. We've tried routines throughout the years. Checklists, picture schedules, vocal schedules, checklists to be signed off by the teacher and the home. Typically, he would come home, if I remember correctly, and he'd had to get his homework done right away, and then he could do what he wanted to do. Mostly that was because he was involved in sports at the time. So if he didn't get his homework done, he couldn't go to sports, and school was the more important thing. Bed at a certain time every night. Dinner was usually at a certain time every day, because he did better with structure than not structure. If he didn't know what was coming next, it was always a problem. So we kept things fairly structured.
Well, he's a really good kid. And he's kind of quirky, but all kids are quirky. Heck, our other son is more quirky, actually. No, just that he's a really good person, and he's fun, and he enjoys to learn, and he just has a different pace about him sometimes. But he's taught me as much as I've taught him over the years.
That I'd like them to know. That he can do the work. That he can do it if he worked for it. I think a lot of times, I think that he was very lucky. We had a lot of wonderful teachers through the years. But I think that some of them in the more critical ages, like second grade, they just kind of wrote him off as he's just being a pain in the neck versus he's got an a problem that we're having to deal with, and we're not very supportive. So, but that he could do it, and this right support would have made all the difference in the world.
Very bright. You are a very hard worker. But when you were little, you always used to have to be the first one done, and it didn't matter to you whether things were right or wrong. Being first was very important to you. So I wanted them to understand that they needed to tell you to slow down a little bit, to recheck your work, that being first is not always important, that being right and accurate in your work and neat was very, very important, more important than being first.
Gee, well, now that seeing this, I guess I'd have to think about that. Maybe supports with giving handwritten notes already, instead of making somebody have to actually use this, or give them some sort of keyboard so they can voice activate it, but that would probably distract the others. Make sure they're sitting in a proper place where they can see what I'm doing and everything on the board.
Well, I guess it would depend on, what NF affected them more, in what aspects, and provide accommodations and modifications that might make it easier for them, and kind of touch base with them and make them part of the decision-making process to see what actually helps them and what doesn't help them.
In the classroom, you would first need to know what NF, how it impacts on the student, and I think that you need to speak with the parent and see what the impact is on the child's performance in school. Then I think you would make appropriate accommodations, whether it be preferential seating or an extra set of notes, maybe slowing down the pace of your instruction, and also providing any additional accommodations that would help the student be successful.
Well, I'm thinking definitely communicate with the parents, and maybe if I have permission to talk with the doctors of the student, and maybe they can give me some feedback, especially if a teacher isn't familiar with a student with the condition, because to be honest, I've only heard of it with one student, so I think, it seems to be like a diagnosis or a condition that maybe not a lot of kids have. So I'm thinking I would probably start with talking to the parents, and if I have permission, talk to the physician, and maybe talk to the student if they're old enough to see what would work for them. Whether they need help with something visual or something, presented differently. So I would definitely communicate.
I think the best way to help a child with NF advocate for themselves is to get them to, or help them to learn what works for them in the classroom, to help them develop a learning style and know which accommodations are the most successful. That way, as they leave your class or my class and they progress in higher grades, whether it's middle school and high school, they'll know which accommodations work for them. But that has to be something that the teacher and the student with NF have to do together.
I think I would try to treat the student in a way like other students, like give them good skills to be confident, and to tell them, if they need something presented differently, if they need something enlarged or something broken down into steps, to just say, to advocate for themselves from a young age, and don't be afraid to talk to a teacher or like a paraprofessional, and just have them kind of know what they need and what works for them, and just to kind of present it in a way that's using their manner, saying, this would help me better if, or I need you to, this helps me when I learn like this, kind of use like an I statement. So, and I think it's a good skill for any student to have, to be able to advocate for themselves, because in life, whether it's school or a job, you have to kind of speak up for yourself sometimes.
I think that if a child doesn't understand something in the classroom, you can rephrase the question. If it was a question that they didn't understand, you could rephrase the question. If they're not understanding the concept that you're presenting, then I would offer notes on the presentation or extra time for them to come to see me after school or during a lunch or a break during the day to re-explain the concept that I was trying to get them to understand in the classroom.
Or I can offer to meet with them afterwards or at another time that's convenient with the student and the teacher. Or I could at free times in the classroom that you meet one-on-one with the student.
You know, not every student is going to learn something on the first time you do it, and you just have to figure out a way that it works for each student.
Well, I think that, you know, from what I recall, like, you're a very bright girl who, like, you did advocate for yourself, you know, very verbal. And to know that, you know, your mom was very supportive. So I think I learned, especially, like, having all those factors, I think really led to your success, you know. I mean, you definitely, you know, you could definitely do the work. And, you know, you're just very pleasant. You didn't let your condition, for lack of better words, like, bring you down. Like, you really just, you know, you were like any other third grader. And I also think that other kids learned, which was great, you know, instead of, you know, wondering, you know, learning about their classmates. So I think you probably taught other people a little bit about the condition, as well as, like, the teachers in our school. Because, like I said before, you were my first student that ever had that, besides the other person I was telling you about. So I think just seeing that, you know, even your perseverance was great, and I think your family support and your knowledge and your mom's knowledge really helped, like, bridge those gaps.
I learned how to be, I think, a better teacher. I really did. Getting to know you and getting to know what NF and how NF impacts on a student, I think helped me really fine-tune accommodations, and it really helped me think of new ways to reach students by having you in class.
That it can't, you can't force it. Like, you have to be patient. I had to listen to you, and you would tell me when something was difficult, so that way then I could break it down further for you, for you to understand it or to be able to use that information. So I think you helped me as far as my patience, and, you know, not every student is going to learn something on the first time you do it, and you just have to figure out a way that it works for each student.
I would say probably that I'm just like everyone else.
That I like to go to work, I like to make money, I like to spend time with my friends, play with my dogs, that I have multiple health issues, including which one of them is NF.
I'm 39. I work in an assisted living facility. I write, I read, and I have neurofibromatosis type 1.
What I just know about me is that there are some things that I just can't do now that I have enough, especially now that I found out I had a pressing neurofibroma. I can't go as hard in some sports as I could before finding out. Just have to be careful.
People with NF1 or NF2 are just like everybody else. We may have our differences, but at the end of the day, we all have the same smile, go to the same schools, and love the same things.
I know it's in my IEP, but I just can't list it off the top of my head. I know I'm able to type my because I have extra time for tests, which helps me, so I don't, because I have bad handwriting, so it helps that I can type answers, short answers.
If I remember correctly, I had extra time on tests, notes from the teachers, take books to take home, because sometimes there wouldn't be enough to go around for the entire school system, so I would have an allotted book at home. And there's others, but I do not remember them all.
all the time. All the time. I was constantly frustrated. I didn't always understand the questions. Again, especially when it came to math, I couldn't comprehend the lessons, and I felt like I wasn't getting much help, and I felt like even the teachers were frustrated at me, which of course made me even more frustrated.
I haven't found school frustrating sometimes. The way I find it difficult is that some people just don't understand. Like, I respond differently in some situations than most other people. Take things more seriously than other people can handle. The best method of learning is hands-on. I like interacting with it. I can learn the other ways, but I learn best when I'm able to interact with.
I'm just in my professional. Use like other stuff that you've learned to help find what you're trying to do. Just don't use common sense. Use actual methods, basically. Which helped me, like getting notes from the teachers, like other notes. Like some kids, like not a lot of people are good at taking notes. So like getting the notes from the teachers just did help a lot. Extra time on tests helped a lot, because if you have to take a test in like 20-30 minutes, you're gonna rush through the test. It's like more time allotted is a big help. That did help me when I was in school.
That other people can benefit from, that helped me, is people help give me write down notes and being able to type things, because some people just can't write, but they don't like to be able to type their questions to tests. I think that might help some people.
People would judge me or be mean because I looked a little different than everybody else in the classroom. But from that, it just made me stronger and embraced who I am even more.
I
was born
a fighter.